This, there we go. All right, so then this will probably be not very slick. I apologize for anyone here and anybody watching the recording. But so I'm just going to sort of trudge through. I'm going to trudge through two use cases. The first one will be testing a pull request. And then the second one will be more useful to what Lisa was asking for, which is using it to make like a proper change. So this first one is a little quicker, which is what I'm doing. But so in order to sort of test a pull request and to see if it works correctly, so here, for example, this is a good one because it has solar and some other things. So then let's see if I can remember how to get this URL working. Gitpod.io/hash, gitpod.io/hash, and then the full pull request URL. Oh, it'll ask me to log in. Hopefully there's no sensitive information there. Perfect. Okay. Okay, and then this will take a moment as it pulls down the container image, but it'll only be a little bit.
While we're loading, do you want to give a point or two of context about what gitpod is going to enable us to do?
So yeah, there we go. So gitpod is essentially, you get that, so in this case, you get that pull request running inside your browser. So you can view the code, you can view the web page generated by the code, the openlibrary website. You can view the Solr instance for that piece of code. You have access to sort of everything. It's the same thing as installing, as cloning the repo locally, running all the Docker setup steps and making code changes. All right, so then I'll leave this keep going. It's going to install some of the Docker stuff we need to get everything running. And then while that's going, well, I guess in the meantime, so you have all the files here. Do you want to start making changes? Yeah, so that's testing a pull request. And then I'll show how to access the website once this is all done. Actually, it looks pretty close. Let's see what it is.
And so it seems like one of the advantages of Gitpod, and props also to Rayburger for helping us get this set up.
Entirely to Ray. He's the one who set it up and just reaping the fruit.
So one of the big benefits is we've been noticing, at least in our community, that people will pull down the Docker images and attempt to build locally. And because changes have recently been made, for instance, in our code base because of pull requests, dependencies can be stale and they'll have to purge everything and completely reinstall. And so Gitpod is kind of like Google Colab or any of these online notebooks that installs all of the dependencies in the whole environment directly in the browser. And that also means it, in addition to not having to install everything locally and have all that bloat, it ensures that you have an up-to-date, fresh environment that builds consistently. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone, as it were.
Exactly. So then here, where that's going, I'm going to open up a pull request there, but you can see it's doing exactly what you would be doing on a local thing. So Docker compose build, Docker compose up, yada yada. That's exactly what it's doing there. We'll get to things set up. So then just to use this as an example of how we would test it. So this is the pull request that's testing, or the pull request that fixes author diacritics. So searching for like GHATTI should match that with those special Unicode characters. So then once this is done, we'll be able to test it. There we go. It's bringing all the containers up.
And presumably, if we were to try this on openlibrary today, the live website, it would fail.
Yes. And you see this little pop-up that says the service is available on port 8080. So if we click open in browser, and then Firefox is going to complain at you every single time. Nothing you can do about it. But yeah, then allow the pop-up and do. See if I've broken something. Let me go to /status. Oh, there we go. There we go. So there's the local environment there. And so this is running the code and everything is appear in a local environment. So then let's test our test case here. Boom. So then it's working and we can test this pull request is up and running. Another important, yeah, go ahead.
Can we see that on Open Library as well, just to verify that the search doesn't work there?
Okay, so now I'm going to be testing that I actually fixed the bug. Well, yeah, it's a little tough because there are a lot of more books on production Open Library, but yeah, it doesn't look, so maybe let's try author. Yeah, nothing there, no hits. We go to author here. Boom. Okay, so that's fixing the bug. A few important things to note here when we're testing a pull request. One thing I've noticed is that JavaScript is sometimes out of date. So then what you can do, ignore what I just put there. What you can do is you can just press the plus. So here is your log of all the Docker things. So you'll see all the requests being made, yada, yada. If you click the plus button here, it'll create a new terminal. And then if you want to go inside and run like make.js, it's the same Docker compose commands that are in our README, in our Docker README. So Docker compose exec web bash, and then you can run make.js, for example, to make the JavaScript, and that'll take a chunk of time. Another useful thing to show here is that here at the bottom, it has a bunch of ports that are accessible. So if we click on that, it opens a sidebar, and 8080 is the default one for the entire thing. But if, for example, because this is related to Solar, we want to investigate this one, we can click on, take your guess, just pick one of those icons and hopefully it'll open in the browser here. And so we have access to a full Solar instance as well, where we can investigate the specific PR and make sure that it's doing the right thing.
What are the longer term prospects of this service and its availability to open source projects? I mean, it seems pretty fast. It's surprisingly fast. And I feel like there's no way that it's going to be able to, stick around as being like a free, fast service once it hits some sort of critical mass.
Potentially. It is fast because we have some caching set up. So I think it does some caching related to our master. So whenever something goes into master, it caches some of the build steps. The thing that is, so I don't know the pricing or whatever their business model is, but GitHub has recently introduced, I think it's called code sandboxes, which is the exact same thing, except of course it's funded by Microsoft and GitHub. So that will probably be free or near free for a very long time.
And is there some sort of open source alternative like GitLab that would enable one to host this infrastructure?
I don't know if there's a self-hosted gitpod.
Yeah, archive.org does something kind of similar with Petabox in its ability to create review apps. But anyway, sorry, off on the tangent.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay. So that's the first flow of like how you would test a PR. So then once you're in here, of course, if you want to like make some quick code changes, yada yada, you can sort of push to the branch. It requires giving gitpod some permissions. It'll ask you for permissions. You just need to follow the flow, and then you'll also be able to push to a random pull request, which is kind of neat because that's kind of annoying and normal. Okay, so that's the first case of you see a pull request, you want to test and confirm that it's doing what it says it's doing. You don't feel like pulling things down, or like in this case, actually, this would be really hard to test on staging because staging doesn't have its own Solar. It just uses the production Solar. So this is something you'd have to test locally or in gitpod. But anyways, there's that. The other case, the one that Lisa might be more interested in, is the one working off you just want to open your own pull request. So I'm going to be ripping on that on the fly, so we'll see how it goes, but I think I have a rough idea of how it will work. Okay, so in order to have that sort of experience, I believe you'd have to start on your fork. So whatever your fork URL is, so mine is cgenius.openlibrary and it's 21 commits behind, whatever, make sure it's up to date. And then click open in gitpod. Oh, or actually maybe not, because it looks like here it went straight to GitHub Internet Archive / openlibrary. Let's see. And then I'll do something very similar to here. And then the part that I'm interested in is trying to go from here to having a pull request, which I think shouldn't be too hard, but let's see. There we go. And because we're working off of master in this case, the main branch, we don't have to wait for the build step to run because it's already cached. That's where the caching is happening. So this is much faster to get up. Okay. There we go. So it's throwing some errors, but it seems to be working. And we see the pop-up again that says service is available. Let's open it in the browser. So allow the pop-up. Okay. There we go. Okay, that needs to be, it's probably, I'm not sure why it's doing that. I wonder if something's updated. Something must be updated with the JavaScript that is showing that far. Anyway, so just got it here. And then to make changes, then it's the same process as usual. So let's try making a quick change to the status page because that's a change. So I'm just using most of the VS Code keyboard shortcuts work. So Control P to jump to a file. And then let's go to status HTML. There we go. So instead of server status, let's do server status test gitpod. And then because this is the same as the local environment, I don't have to do anything. This auto saves, so it's already saved. And then if I come here and refresh, we have test gitpod there. So HTML changes are always like that, and Python changes. They don't require any refreshing. But then let's see if we can commit this and do something here. So
how does that work in the case where like an incremental change to a line in Python may break the server?
I think it'll just crash. It'll stop and you'll see errors pop up here. Let's see if I can break it real quick.
And then do you have to do anything special to restart that?
I'm not sure. Let's see. So there we go. Oh, no, it just is the normal error thing. And here we can see the error log. It looks like the web server didn't die. So that's kind of lucky, I guess. But yeah, that might be more of an edge case. I haven't tried. Okay, so then we have our thing here. And now let's see if I can figure out how to create a pull request from this. So if I go to the little commit panel, which is where it usually happens in VS Code, one awkward thing I'm noticing here is that it's showing master branch on openlibrary Git. It's not showing the person's fork, which is what I hoped it would be doing, but it's not. So I think it's the same commands as usual if you want to create here. So I opened up a new terminal there, leave the logs where they were. And then if we do git status, yeah, so we're on origin master with that, but we can switch to a new branch, git check out the branch / test gitpod. You run a new branch, and now we can commit these changes if we like. But the awkward thing is we're still, if I try to push this up, it's going to push it up in, or it's going to try to push it up into openlibrary, the main openlibrary repo, which most folks don't have access to.
Presumably one would add a new get remote origin. And it would also probably have to use HTTPS because you don't have your SSH keys on here.
Exactly. So
however, I don't know how long or if GitHub is going to accept HTTPS pushing from a host like this.
I believe, well, let's try. So I'm going to go through here and where's the little, there it is. So in the same way you usually have to set up, we can copy this SSH, or no, the HTTPS, sorry, this guy. go back here and we can do git. Actually, we could also just do this git push name of your fork, and then push the branch name you just created. So test gitpod. Although before I do that, let me commit this change. So this is the change in test gitpod. I can enter my commit message here. So testing gitpod, and then press the little check mark here to commit. So that's not committed on this branch that we created. And then if I do git push blah, and then press enter, let's see what happens. Okay, so I think I've already done the authentication stuff. So Gitpod has access to everything I have access to at this point. That's probably already created there.
Oh yeah, that's
And
great
it's-
because you do have to log into Gitpod. And presumably that uses the same type of OAuth authentication or SSH keys.
And yeah, the first time I logged in, I didn't give it permission to like make changes to my repos. But then this sort of stuff wouldn't work. And it just prompted me and I clicked allow. This pop-up stuff was actually kind of a headache and it made it a little difficult, but it eventually made it through and was able to give it permissions. And you'll see this link here, create a pull request for test gitpod. So then if I control click on that, of course, the pop-up is going to get blocked. And then if I click on one of these URLs there, boom, testing gitpod. From my fork, cjourney open library branch, test gitpod, merging into open library master. And yeah, all the changes. Okay, so that was a bit shaky, but that's sort of the rough idea. Any questions from folks?
Quick question. So is there a way to like properly shut down your gitpod instance?
Great question. Okay, so the thing with Gitpod is that I think their free tier or whatever has 50 hours. So I'm not entirely certain who that 50 hour belongs to, whether it belongs to the repo or whether it belongs to each individual. But let's assume each individual. If you leave this open long enough, it will eventually close. But you want to save on your time there. So if you want to do that, just click the little Gitpod button here in the corner. And it'll bring up a number of settings and click stop workspace to bring down the workspace and save your minutes for another day. Yeah.
Is that per month, 50 hours?
I believe so, yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? All right, this was awesome. Thanks, Trini.
Yeah, so for folks like Lisa who want to work, this should largely let you, without having to do a lot of Docker stuff, just jump into a quick environment. And yes, I was wrong at the beginning. You don't even need to go to your fork. You just need to go to the main open library guy here, the main open library repo, and then click the open and gitpod button to get an environment up and running. The only sort of awkward part, which I don't know what the best way to do it is after you make your commits and after you make your branch, you have to push to your fork. So you'll have to make sure to put your username. This URL isn't too bad, so you can also try typing it out, or you can just copy it from your fork. But make sure you pushing up to your fork, because that's probably the only thing you'll have permission to.